Hello and welcome to the Locus Magazine New Books Roundup for the week of May 10th, 2022. This week we've got 8 science fiction novels, 7 fantasy standalone titles, and 5 horror books, including a couple of books for middle grade or young adult readers. This is the weekly roundup of new books coming out this very week in science fiction, fantasy, horror, and related titles from Locus Magazine, which is a monthly trade magazine that's been covering these genres for a very long time. You're probably here because you love books, so let's get into it. I'm going to start with some fantasy books. We're excited to see a book from Nghi called Siren Queen. The author also wrote a fantastical Great Gatsby, which was called The Chosen and the Beautiful. This new book, Siren Queen, is coming out from Tor.com in hardcover, ebook, and audio. The fantasy story is about a Chinese-American lesbian girl in a pre-code Hollywood full of ancient magic. Another fantasy book coming out this week with a character of Chinese heritage is Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor from Ziren J. Zhao. This is a middle grade fantasy novel coming out from Simon & Schuster, the McElderry imprint, in hardcover, ebook, and audio. The main character, Zachary, knows very little about his Chinese heritage until the spirit of the first emperor of China gives him powers and sends him on a quest to the underworld. The author is Canadian, born in China, and they are a YouTube sensation right now. Ziren says of themselves, "I am a 20-something first-gen immigrant from small-town China who was raised by the internet. I graduated from Vancouver's Simon Fraser University with a biochemical disease research degree, but because I got dumped out at the height of the first COVID wave and couldn't go hunting for jobs actually related to my studies, I wrote books and spewed my opinions about various media on the internet instead, and now I'm a YouTuber and #1 New York Times bestselling author. What even?" Their first novel was called Iron Widow and was the #1 New York Times bestseller they mentioned. Iron Widow was on the Hugo ballot for the Lodestar Award, and it won the 2021 BSFA Award for Best Book for Younger Readers. And another middle grade fantasy novel we want to tell you is coming out this week is Crazy in Poughkeepsie from author Daniel Pinkwater. This book is being published by Tachyon Publications in hardcover, ebook, and audio. It is illustrated by Aaron Rainier. The author Beth Cato says Crazy in Poughkeepsie is a ludicrous romp reminiscent of The Muppets. That from Beth Cato, author of The Clockwork Dagger. The book also has a blurb from author Neil Gaiman, who says what Pinkwater does is magic. Now, maybe you know the work of New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Maberry. He's got a new fantasy novel coming out called Kagen the Dam from St. Martin's Griffin in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel, the first in a new series. Kagen Vale, once captain of the palace guard, loses his way when the royal family is killed until he hears a rumor that 2 of the children are still alive. The writer Michael Moorcock says of this book, "If you hunger for more George Martin, this novel will thoroughly satisfy you. And if you love Lovecraft, you're in for something very special." That from writer Michael Moorcock, who is a World Fantasy Lifetime Achievement Award winner. The next book we'll tell you about is called The Ghosts of Rose Hill by R.W.W. Romero, coming out from Peachtree Teen in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy verse novel drawing on Jewish and Eastern European folklore. The protagonist, Ilana Lopez, is a biracial Jewish girl who dreams of becoming a violinist, but while visiting an aunt in Prague, she meets ghosts and a shadowless man who offers to share his magic. I obviously am not a shadowless person. We also want to mention a new book from Kathe Koja called The Dark Factory. This title is coming out from Meerkat Press in trade, paperback, ebook, and audio. It's a dark fantasy novel about a dance club with state-of-the-art customizable reality. Koja has won many awards for her work, including a Shirley Jackson Award, Bram Stoker Award, Locus Award, Spectrum Award, Parents' Choice Award, ALA Best Book for Young Adults, Philip K. Dick Award, and the World Fantasy Award. There's an age-old debate about what counts as fantasy and what counts as science fiction, since there's a lot of overlap between the genres. We are not going to settle that debate today, but we'll tell you that science fiction writers tend to pronounce SCIFI as skiffy. If you call it sci-fi, we'll think that you're talking about movies or maybe video games. If we absolutely have to abbreviate science fiction, we'll call it SF. Why? Who even knows? But what's the point of specialized language if you can't use it to differentiate yourselves as insiders? So if you didn't know, now you know. If I call it skiffy or SF, you will know I mean science fiction. Next, we want to tell you about a science fiction book called Dragon's Heir by Dr. Glenn Parris. Now, this is a science fiction novel with dragons in the title. Like I said, the border between science fiction and fantasy is a little permeable, even though dragons usually make people think it's fantasy. This book is coming out from Outland Entertainment in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook, and was originally self-published in 2018. It's Earth, it's 1996, and the aliens called the Eleflu are coming back to Earth after 65 million years away. The author's biography on Amazon says that Glenn Parris is a board-certified rheumatologist practicing medicine in the northeast Atlanta suburbs for over 20 years and writing for nearly as long. Dr. Parris's Goodreads page mentions that he's an expert in Afrofuturism and a graduate of the Bronx High School of Science, along with Samuel R. Delany and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Another science fiction novel coming out this week is Mercury Rising from R.W.W. Greene. This book is coming out from Angry Robot US in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. It's an alternate history SF novel with aliens and an immortal misanthrope in a world where Kennedy wasn't assassinated. Robert Oppenheimer invented a nuclear engine in 1940, and aliens invaded in 1957. It looks like the plot is about a killer with a mysterious box of 8-track tapes who is making trouble for a regular guy named Brooklyn. Science fiction often tackles sort of what-if ideas, big ideas about the future and very different societies. This next book is by Robert Evans, and it's called After the Revolution, coming out from AK Press in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a near-future SF novel set in 2070 after the collapse of the US. 3 unlikely allies must work together to stop the white Christian ethno-state known as the Heavenly Kingdom from taking over the free city of Austin. Next, we want to tell you about Jackson Ford's new book, which has a cuss word in the title, so I'll have to spell it out. It's called A**TLOAD of Crazy Powers. This book is coming out from Orbit US in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook. It's a science fiction novel, 4th in a series about telekinetic government agent Tegan Frost. And we also want to tell you about a supernatural horror novel coming out from New York Times bestselling writer Christopher Rice called Decimate, published by Thomas and Mercer. The book is coming out in hardcover, trade paperback, ebook, and audio. Christopher Rice is the son of Anne Rice, who wrote Interview with a Vampire. Decimate by Christopher Rice is a supernatural thriller novel about a family dealing with near-death experiences and what the father thinks was an alien abduction. And in case you missed it, we want to tell you about a book from Scott O'Moore called Battle of the Linguist Mages that came out from Tor.com in hardcover this past January. Locus reviewer Adrian Martini said that the Battle of the Linguist Mages is very much a Moore creation, weird and wild and delightful. The story is about Isabel, an unemployed single Californian who is the queen of a VR game called Sparkle Dungeon. The novel really blurs the line between what's real and what's the game. And to briefly summarize the other books we saw this week, they were a Star Wars novel called Brotherhood by Mike Chen from Del Rey, the science fiction novel Neodymium Betrayal from writer Jen Finelli, published by Wordfire Press, a post-apocalyptic novel from publisher Briar Road called Primitives by author Erich Krauss, a supernatural noir mashup from Stephen Lloyd called Friend of the Devil, coming out from Putnam. We also saw an anthology from Wicked Run Press edited by Mark Matthews called Orphans of Bliss, Tales of Addiction Horror, with stories by writers including Gabino Iglesias, Kathe Koja, and Josh Mallerman. We saw the SF novel The Cord from Jim O'Loughlin, published by BHC Press. From Flatiron, we saw the horror novel Hidden Pictures from Jason Rekulak and Will Staehle, and from 47 North, we saw Jeff Wheeler's fantasy novel The Druid, the first book in the Dawning of Mirrorwood series. All right, thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget, it's super important that you subscribe to the channel, like us, follow us in all the places you can follow us. We are called @LocusMag on most platforms. Also, make sure to learn Ancient Sumerian, figure out how to write Locus Mag in that language, chisel that into a nice clay tablet or whatever writing material you can get your hands on, and gently place it in your nearest time machine. We need to get the word out about this channel, and every bit helps. And if you'd like to know more about Locus Magazine, we cover science fiction, fantasy, horror, and young adult books that are coming out. We do book reviews, we interview authors, talk to artists, cover writers' workshops and conventions, all kinds of stuff. And the magazine has been doing that and generally covering the publishing business for decades. Go check us out at our website at www.locusmag.com. I'll put links below the video. You can subscribe to the print magazine. Locus is available in a digital edition, or you can donate to what we do via our Patreon or direct donation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with more new books.